Well, hey, thanks for joining us for the bonus content. We are looking at part 7 of the Beatitudes, and Jesus has begun the Sermon on the Mount, and we just finished. If you have not yet listened to this, blessed are the peacemakers, because that is where we talk about how to be a peacemaker with opportunities that come up. And remember, we looked at 1 Samuel 25 with the story of Abigail and David and Nabal, and how Abigail really rose up as a peacemaker and brought some great ingredients. And so go back and check that out. But in this bonus content, I didn't want to talk about how to bring peacemaking into our life. I wanted to talk about how to bring peace into our heart. Because as we looked at in our sermon this past week, if you have not yet watched it, Jesus did not tell us to go bring peace in the world until we brought peace to ourselves. And so we need to be careful that we are moving in a spirit of peace, that we're able to bring peace into the world. And so I wanted to talk about, for just a moment, what does a peaceful heart look like? You know, in Hebrews chapter 12, the writer gives us this very convicting verse. It's a verse that when I read, I'm like, I wish that was not in the Bible, because here's what it says in Hebrews 12. It says, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy, because without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Now that is so convicting to me because, we all have people in our life that we don't want to make peace with, or we don't know how to make peace with, or we just avoid them because every time we get together, it's just this flammable situation. But here God's word's clearly reminding us, make every effort to live peaceably with all men. And so that when you and I go through life, it is our responsibility as a believer, as a disciple of Jesus, to make peace with everyone that we come in contact with. So that ex-spouse, or that nosy neighbor, or that ruthless boss, or that person that just annoys you, just gets under your skin, we really need to make every effort to make peace, because when we make peace with people, we are living a holy life. And that's the first characteristic of what a peaceful heart looks like. It's that word holy. A peaceful heart combined with holiness is exactly what God's looking for, as you are and as I am a disciple of Jesus. In fact, in 1 Peter, here's what Peter, a disciple of Jesus, here's what he wrote. He says, let him turn away from evil and to do what is good. Let him seek peace and pursue it. If we're going to have a peaceful heart, it has got to begin with holiness. A holy heart is a peaceful heart. Now, if you're going to be a peacemaker, we have to have a peaceful heart, and it begins with holiness. So Peter is telling us that holiness is turning away from evil. It's doing what is good. And the writer of Hebrews reminds us that when we're having holiness, then peace comes, and that is what turns people to the Lord. You see, you and I sometimes as Christians, we don't have a peaceful heart in ourselves, but we want people to follow us. We want people to believe us, to lean into our opinions, to agree with us on social media, but we're not becoming from a holy place. And so as a rooted disciple of Jesus, peaceful heart begins with holiness. But there's another characteristic of a peaceful heart, and we find this second characteristic in Romans. And the second characteristic of a peaceful heart is that it's a helpful heart. You know, sometimes as Christians, we're not so helpful. Now, I don't like people like bugging me at the store or around the town. Like, I just like to just get what I need to get and leave. I don't know if this is you, maybe, but it's definitely me, where I find somebody maybe at church, or maybe someone I know from the community, and I don't always like to do like a stop and chat or want to like help them maybe. And that's my own issues I need to work on. But really, a peaceful heart is a helpful heart. And I love this verse in Romans. Paul writes, he says, if possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And you know what that means? It means that we help people. That a peaceful heart is a helpful heart, where we're just trying to serve and be good and be kind to other people. You see, when we're at odds with people, when we don't want to help people, when we're too busy for people, we're not having peace in our own heart. And so a peaceful heart is a holy heart. It's a heart that says, I'm going to turn away from evil. I'm going to do that which is good. But then it's also a helpful heart. When we look out and we say, I'm in a hurry, but I'm going to help you. I don't really want to talk to anybody. I'm introverted. And so there are times in my life where I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I am done. Usually that time for me, by the way, is Sunday afternoons. Like, we're going all morning with our services and maybe speaking all day. And in the afternoon, I just want to shut down and not talk to anybody else for the rest of the day. But a helpful heart is someone who says, hey, I'm going to go beyond myself. I'm going to look just past my own issues, and I want to be a helpful person to those that God's brought to me. And so a peaceful heart is holy. A peaceful heart is helpful. But there's another word that is going to sound too spiritual, so forgive me, but I'm a pastor. The third characteristic of a peaceful heart is that it is a heavenly heart. Now, sometimes that's like a pie in the sky, like, oh, it's heavenly, oh, it's spiritual. But hold on, because here's what we find in Philippians chapter 4. Because here's what Paul says. He says this. He says, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. You know, there are situations in our life that it does not seem possible to have peace. Maybe you're grieving a lost loved one, or maybe you've had some trials, or you've had some difficulties. Maybe you just had a medical diagnosis that you don't know how you're going to get past. We all have situations in our life where we're like, there is no possible way that we're going to have peace. I remember, and maybe I've shared this before, but I remember going through my own struggles, really in the middle of a divorce, and there's so many trials that are coming my way, and there's so many bad things that are happening. I remember going to a church, not here, another church, and the pastor just was kind of not bragging, but I felt it was like really over the top. But he was saying his life was shalom, which is the Hebrew word for peace, and everything was so peaceful, and everything was so good, and I remember thinking, like, that is not even close to my life. Like, I don't even know what peace is right now. And it seemed like peace was so far away. But what God and what we find here in scriptures is that there's a peace that can only come from God. So when we have a peaceful heart, what I mean by that it's heavenly is that sometimes we just have to go beyond ourselves and say, God, on this earth, I will not find peace. I need you to come in and give me a peace that passes all understanding. Too many times, even as Christians, even as disciples of Jesus, we focus too much on what we see. We focus too much on what we can find here on earth. But really, many times in our life, as you're going through struggles, we need to not look here on earth, but as Paul tells us in Colossians, to set our eyes and attention on things above. We need to have a heavenly mindset that says, God, I'm not going to find peace in my workplace. I'm not going to find peace in my home right now. I'm not going to find peace in relationship struggles because I'm really I have a lot of deep hurt right now. But what I am going to find is peace through heaven, peace through this heavenly mindset that only you, God, can provide, and it will pass all understanding. And so as we become peacemakers, it starts with us. You're not going to go to work and be a peacemaker if you don't have a peaceful heart. You're not going to have a peaceful marriage if your heart's not peaceful. You're not going to have peaceful kids and family and relationships and neighbors if you don't have your own peace in your own heart. And so we need to be careful that it starts with us. We can't bring peace to our world until we bring peace to ourselves. And it begins with a peaceful heart, which is holy. We turn away from evil. We turn to that which is good, but it's also helpful. We're looking for ways that we can help people even in our own struggles. Sometimes that's the best times to serve other people is when you're hurting yourself. And then we're going to say, God, I need a heavenly mindset. I need a heavenly perspective that only you can offer, and ask for peace that only you can give. And so as we become peacemakers, remember this, Jesus says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. As sons, as daughters of God, you and I have a responsibility to match our Father, to say, God, we're going to go out in peace. We're going to, as much as we possibly can, we're going to make peace with all people, with everybody in our life, because that is pleasing to the Father, and that reflects what the Father's heart is. And have a peaceful heart this week. And let me encourage you, as you're going throughout your workplace, as you're going throughout your neighborhood, your community, wherever you are, make peace with all men. And it starts with a peaceful heart. Well, I hope this has encouraged you and challenged you. But church, let's go forward this week and become peacemakers in our community.